Now last week we showed you a fitness class called Pound. This week it's all about lifting and sculpting.
Lift and Sculpt uses resistance to sculpt and strengthen the muscles all over the body, and that class has actually been here for maybe over 20 years, and a lot of the ladies that were here tonight that you filmed have been taking it since the beginning.
20 years and still going strong. Lift and Sculpt is a class offered multiple times a week at East Coast Health and Fitness. If you are looking for a full body workout, this is it. Within minutes, you'll be dripping sweat and working hard, doing things like weighted lunges and a lot of core work. And each week, you never know what you're going to get.
Every Monday, Wednesday, she changes it up, so you never know what you're going to get because she creates everything herself. So many of our classes here, we create ourselves.
And Lyncha says it's good to periodically switch up your gym routine and throw in something that your body may not be used to.
If you're on a goal for weight loss and building muscle, you'll get to a point where you plateau. So you have to change it up to have your body be like, what are you doing to me? To see your results increase. I try to change it up. I teach the classes I teach, and then I come to one extra class a week.
One thing that intimidates some people when coming to the gym is fear of not being able to keep up with the class or just with the people who are there. But with Lift and Sculpt, even though the class changes every week, the instructor makes sure the moves are simple, but that you are still achieving results. And that's what Lyncha thinks is what has kept this class around for so long.
I think the instructors we've had, because the instructor makes or breaks the class, to be quite honest. They're either a people person, they're encouraging and warm, and they'll give you advice and keep things different and changing, but they also understand that things need to be simple so people adhere to them. Nothing overcomplicated, nothing other, not to intimidate anyone.
So what can you expect to work on when you step into Lift and Sculpt? Grab your equipment and be prepared to work everything.
She probably does an upper and a lower body and maybe a little bit of light cardio. And I know she does a lot of core with them, and she's really heavy into the Pilates, which is phenomenal for your core, your back, your balance.
And the more you come, the stronger you get, making everyday life activities easier on you and your body.
It gets everything. So you lift weights, you do your core, your stability, and it applies to like real world life. You gotta go home tonight and mow the grass and it's all uphill. Well, your glutes are strong, your hams are strong, you're gonna push the mower up the hill. You gotta pick the kids up, you're going to Sam's Club and you got 2 big bags and you gotta get it out to your car. I mean, everything applies to just daily life.
And if your daily life is stressful, you could start your fitness journey with yoga. Yoga was popular but has since faded out in the fitness world, but now it is making a comeback, and people are encouraged to get peace and relaxation into their lives because of the amazing health benefits.
There's always something new coming on. I mean, we got the step in the 80s with Jane Fonda, and now Zumba replaced that, and now we got Pound is super popular. I mean, yoga's making a comeback now. For many years, yoga wasn't on the radar, but now all the health benefits are being touted. Yoga, especially if you have a stressful life. I take yoga on Sunday morning here, and it's an hour of peace and quiet that I have.
Next on our fitness journey, we check out a class called Dance Fusion. Are you looking for pottery that is local, beautiful, but most of all, functional? We sat down with one man who could have just what you're looking for. From the outside, it looks like a small, cozy house, but inside, it is packed full of thousands of hand-glazed mugs, plates, and bowls.
Well, I like to make functional pottery, and that's like tableware, mugs, and bowls. Something handmade that people can really enjoy. That's something they can use every day and interact with every day.
And while all his items start out the same way, as a big clump of clay, and go through the same process, each piece has its own unique beauty.
I dip each piece by hand, so that's going to create its own unique pattern on each piece within that style of glazing. The depth of the dip in the glaze, where the glaze is placed in the kiln, then will affect the actual outcome of the color of each piece. So it creates a really unique piece working that way. I get different variations of these colors of red in my glazes, different variations of the black and the blue. I'm just amazed by how they can take on their own character each and every time in each and every firing, like two very similar pieces made the same way, glazed the same way, can turn out very differently.
Patterson hand makes each and every piece in his shop himself. From the original clump of clay to the hand-dipped glaze, he does it all. And though the process may look complicated to some, for him, after doing it for so many years, it's a simple task.
Well, that's the funnest part. You actually handle each piece many times over. You start with that lump of clay, and I do all my work on the potter's wheel. And so I change that lump of clay into a form. That then gets put on the shelf, and of course I don't really do one piece at a time, so I'll work at creating a dozen pieces at a time. I'll dry them together, I'll bring them back to the wheel and attach, smooth them out, and attach handles at another stage. I'll put them back on the shelf till they dry completely, and then I'll put them in the kiln for the first firing. That's called the bisque firing, and then they'll come out of the kiln ready to glaze. I'll apply the glaze and put it back in the kiln, and then they get fired to 2300 degrees and become vitreous, actually molten red hot, and then cool down to be non-porous. They don't require having a glaze, but the glaze at those temperatures will fuse to the clay and create a durable, functional piece of pottery.
And he's been doing these steps for years, 25 to be exact. And he says he has his customers to thank for that.
Well, I'm very grateful because I have a real passion for making pottery, and you can only do that for 25 years if you've got a lot of support. And I have wonderful support of people that love coming back and adding to their collection, adding to their tableware, and it's a lot of gratitude I get from that whole thing.
He is sharing that love of pottery and his experiences to the community by teaching pottery lessons out of his studio. His favorite dish to make, his best-selling item, mugs.
Well, I certainly love making all different kinds of pieces that people can use. Everybody needs a mug. I love making mugs. That's certainly what I sell the most of. It gives people a real connection in their daily lives to get a piece of pottery that they can use and connect with a real person. And having that connection is really, really wonderful.
And some come back and share that connection with him.
I really love it when people tell me that they love my mug and they use it every morning and every day. And it's really heartening to me to hear that and hear them share that with me.
Patterson says he likes being able to watch customers come into his shop and find the perfect piece of pottery that fits them, because just like people, each piece is unique.
It's really fun selling the way I do, having people come out here and getting connected with the pottery. There's a real connection that has to happen between a person and the pot they buy, and it's really fun to watch people come in and take things in and then go to that thing that really connected with them.
Although he is in the quiet town of Aaronsburg, the amount of support for local artists he has here and in the surrounding community really makes it all worthwhile.
The festivals that are around really speak volumes to the support for arts and crafts regionally, and people really like coming out and finding these unique and individual places that are all over Pennsylvania, and I'm one of them, and so I just feel very lucky.
For more information, visit his Facebook page, Aaronsburg Pottery. Welcome back to the center of it all. It's quick, it's easy, but it has a big kick. Mel is sharing with us the whole enchilada. Let's take a look.
Enchiladas are one of those Tex-Mex specialties that taste a little different everywhere you eat them. For those who don't know, enchiladas are lightly fried corn tortillas that can be filled with an endless variety of fillings before being rolled up and baked. Join me right here at the stovetop this morning and watch while I make my kid and tailgate tested New Mexico style ground beef enchiladas. Put down that can of store-bought enchilada sauce. There's absolutely no reason to buy it unless you don't know how easy it is to make at home. The word enchilada comes from the word enchilar, which means to add chili pepper to. And New Mexico style enchilada sauce is a red-based sauce made from chili powder. I've got a 1-quart stock pot on the stove today, and it's a 1-quart saucepan actually, and I'm going to put this over medium-high heat, and I've got 2 tablespoons of oil added to it. I'm using avocado oil today, but feel free to use anything neutral, canola, vegetable, sunflower, whatever you like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk in 2 tablespoons of flour. And we're going to start by making a roux. Starting to brown up around the sides, get nice and bubbly. It's going to get very thick and pasty. And the reason we're letting this go with a full minute is what we want to do is we want to cook the taste of flour, that bland taste of flour out of it. We don't want to taste flour in our enchilada sauce. Really frothy now. Okay, this is looking really, really good here. Get in around the sides of this. It'll start turning just a little bit light brownish, which is great. Okay, now I'm going to turn this down way low, way low. And I'm going to add my spices. And I've got here 5 tablespoons of chili powder. And to that there's cumin, there's garlic powder, onion powder, there's sugar, salt, and black pepper. And that's a lot of spices going in there. And now we're just going to stir this. And the only word I can use is this is going to look really funky. It's going to be in real big pieces and big blotches. But we want to get all of that flavor incorporated into the flour. And now I'm going to add to this real slowly, 2 cups of beef broth. Now I'm adding beef broth today because I'm making ground beef enchiladas. If I were making chicken enchiladas, I'd be adding chicken broth. If I were making seafood enchiladas, I'd be adding vegetable stock. And one last item, a tablespoon of white vinegar to give it its classic vinegary tang. Now this is going to come to a simmer and it's going to cook for about 10 minutes until it's thickened up. Okay, this has been on about 12 minutes. It's reduced a little. It's really nice and thick and smooth, and it's that rich brown, beautiful color that you want, not that bright red stuff in the can. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to pour this right in here. I should end up with about 1.5 cups. I'm going to set this to the side to cool, and it's time to make our beef filling. To make my ground beef filling, I'm starting with 3 pounds of lean 90-10 ground meat in a nice shallow saute pan. And I'm going to add my spices, cumin, salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, the same basic things that I put in my enchilada sauce. And I'm going to add 12 ounces, that's about 2 onions, lots of onions, to my meat mixture. I'm going to put it over medium-high heat, and I'm going to cook this, stirring it pretty often, pretty frequently, until it's cooked through and there's almost no liquid left in the bottom of the pan, regulating the heat so the meat stays moist and juicy and doesn't brown. We want the meat nice and juicy and steamy. This is going to take me about 15 or 20 minutes. This has been about 20 minutes and it is cooked perfectly, steaming hot. It's hard to get a camera angle on that, but there's almost no liquid left in the bottom of that pan, just a little coating. And now what we do, because you don't want to cook these, I'm turning off the heat and I'm adding a full 16 ounces of New Mexico's green chilies. And we're going to stir this together. Get these thoroughly incorporated. I'm going to put a lid on this, set it to the back of the stove, and we're going to fry our corn tortillas. I'm starting with an 8-inch skillet non-stick on my stove top, putting it over medium-high heat, and I'm going to fry my corn tortillas, but I'm going to lightly fry them. I don't want to brown them. But a corn tortilla as is, it'll crack if you turn it. You want to cook these just to make them soft and pliable so that they won't crack when you roll them up. And you want to do it to enhance their flavor. It's going to bring up the flavor of the corn in the tortillas. So I'm just going to put that in the skillet over medium-high heat, and I'm going to fry these on both sides, flipping them back a couple of times for about a minute to a minute and a half a piece. Now I've flipped this once or twice, and as you can see, it's starting to bubble up in random spots on both sides. That's exactly what we're looking for. The bubbles, the air bubbles. And keep flipping. You might flip it 3-4 times. That's exactly what you want. You're not looking to get this brown, but you can be able to smell the flavor of the corn. That's been about a minute. That's good. That's all we're looking for. Soft, pliable, aromatic. And I'm just going to repeat this with 11 more of them. I'm making 12 enchiladas today, and I'm just going to keep stacking them on a plate as I work. Well, I've set up my assembly line, and what I like to do is use 2 8 by 8 inch square pans instead of one 13 by 9 inch pan to make 12 enchiladas. The extra space that I get, 16 inches instead of 13, means that 6 enchiladas will fit in each pan perfectly, and they'll bake up beautifully. They won't be squeezed together to oblivion. And I'm going to just pick up a corn tortilla, and I'm going to place it on the plate, and I'm going to paint it with enchilada sauce on both sides. And this is, your girls, you're going to get your fingertips all full of this red-brown sauce. Now, originally in Mexico, the corn tortillas are dipped in the sauce, so it really soaks up a ton of the sauce. But my homemade sauce is so flavorful that I'm just giving it a nice light coating. And when enchiladas originated, they were sold in Mexico as simply unfilled. They were just dipped in sauce, rolled, and sold on the streets. So we've got a nice painting of enchilada sauce on there. And now I'm going to put 1/3 of a cup of filling, my real flavorful, I call it my beef, lots of onion and green chili enchilada filling, across the center of the enchilada, just like that. And I'm going to top it with about 2 tablespoons of, I'm using habanero cheddar to make them nice and spicy. Just pick up 2 sides, pull them together over the top. I'm going to grab it by the corners, and I'm going to put it seam side down in this pan. And I'm just going to keep wrapping and rolling till all 12 of them are sitting side by side in both pans. I filled and rolled all 12 of my enchiladas and washed my hands too. I drizzled 1/2 cup of my enchilada sauce over the top of each pan, and I put 1 cup of grated habanero cheese over the top. I'm popping these in a 350-degree oven for 18 to 20 minutes, just until the filling's heated through and the cheese is all melted and bubbly, and then it's time to eat. Everybody has a favorite sauce or filling for their enchiladas. Some like it spicy, some like it mild. Some like ground beef, others like pork. Still others like chicken. That said, while you might prefer flour tortillas in a whole host of other Mexican dishes, if you're not making enchiladas with corn tortillas, you're not making enchiladas. And that's the whole enchilada. For these and all of my recipes, just go to my website.
We had leftover enchiladas for days after that shoot, and I can say they taste just as good when they are reheated. When we come back, we check out a beagle who needs your help in finding her new forever family. Welcome back. Beautiful, loving, snuggly, what more could you ask for in a family pet? We met with Nittany Beagle Rescue, who shows us one dog who needs your help in finding her forever family.
Thanks, Alicia. I'm here with Bella from the Nittany Beagle Rescue. She's a 3-year-old beagle. She's really sweet. She's a complete sweetheart. She loves to get pet. She likes belly rubs. She likes playing with toys. She's great with kids. She's great with people, and she's great with other dogs. She loves them all. We actually recently did the People's Choice Art Festival in Aaronsburg, and we had her there all day, and she was just great. She was great with the people and the dogs. There's a lot of dogs there. She's a pretty good walker. If you use a harness, she's a lot better than if you use her collar. She tends to choke herself a little on the collar, but with the harness, she pulls a lot less. And she likes to sniff, so she's, you know, the typical beagle. But she's very sweet, and she's pretty good in the car, too. She sort of just sits there. She does like to kiss, so if you get close enough to her, she'll lick your face. She likes treats and she loves affection, so that probably means she'll be pretty easy to train because she's very responsive to both those things. She does need a tiny bit more work on house training. She's pretty good about going to the door, but every once in a while she might have an accident.
For more information on Bella and all the animals available for adoption, visit NittanyBeagleRescue.org. That wraps up this week's Center of It All. Be sure to follow all our social media for entertainment, sports, and other local updates. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.